The day my mother called me a traitor to our bloodline was the same day I signed Logan's adoption papers. I remember standing in our family's mahogany-lined study, my hands trembling as I held the documents that would make me a mother, while my own mother's face twisted with disgust. My name is Valerie, and this is the story of how I lost my birth family, but gained something far more precious. You're making a mockery of everything we stand for. My mother Ainsley spat, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the antique desk. This, this child isn't even related to us. He's not a Roberts. He will be as soon as I sign these papers, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. At 35, I thought I'd outgrown fearing my mother's disapproval. I was wrong. My father Wyatt stood by the window, his silence more damning than any words could be. He hadn't looked at me once since I'd arrived to break the news. Mom, I've wanted to be a mother my whole life. You know this. Logan needs a family, and I can give him one. A real family is built on blood, she snapped, not paperwork and misplaced charity. Tatum, my best friend who'd insisted on coming with me for support, stepped forward. Mrs. Roberts, Logan is an amazing kid. If you just meet him, stay out of this. My mother cut her off. This is a family matter. Then treat me like family, I pleaded. Support my choice. Logan is 14, brilliant, kind. 14? My father finally spoke, turning from the window. You're adopting a teenager? Have you lost your mind completely? I've spent months getting to know him. He's incredible, Dad. If you'd just get out. My mother's voice was ice. If you sign those papers, you are no longer welcome in this house. You will not be my daughter. I looked at my brother Miles, who had been hovering in the doorway. His eyes met mine, filled with conflict, but he said nothing. My hands stopped shaking. Then I guess this is goodbye. I placed the papers on the desk and pulled out my pen. My mother's sharp intake of breath was the only sound as I signed my name on each marked line. Valerie Roberts, soon to be mother of Logan Moore. You'll regret this, my mother said, her voice thick with threat. When he turns on you, when he proves to be nothing but trouble. The only thing I regret, I interrupted, gathering the papers, is believing you could ever see past your own prejudice. Come on, Tatum. As we walked toward the door, my father's voice stopped me. Val, please, think about what you're doing to this family. I turned back one last time. I'm not doing anything to this family. You are. The drive home was quiet, save for Tatum's occasional supportive comments. When we pulled up to my house, I saw Logan sitting on the front steps, homework spread across his lap. He looked up, his face breaking into that bright, hopeful smile that had first stolen my heart at the adoption agency. How'd it go? He asked as I approached. I held up the signed papers. It's official. You're stuck with me now, kid. His eyes widened. Really? They're all signed? Every last one. He launched himself at me, nearly knocking me over with his hug. At 14, he was already almost my height, all gangly limbs and teenage energy. Thank you, he whispered against my shoulder. Thank you for choosing me. I held him tighter, feeling tears spring to my eyes. No, Logan, thank you for choosing me back. Later that night, after Tatum had gone home and Logan was asleep, my phone buzzed with a text from Miles. I'm sorry, I should have said something. I typed back, yes, you should have. Another buzz. Give me time, they might come around. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked to Logan's room and peeked in. He was sprawled across his bed, one arm hanging off the edge, history textbook still open on his chest. I carefully removed the book and pulled his blanket up. Looking at him, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd made the right choice. My mother's words about blood and family rang hollow in the face of this simple truth. Love doesn't care about DNA. I closed his door softly and went to my own room, where I finally allowed myself to cry. Not for the family I'd lost, they'd made their choice, but for the family I was building. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, I let myself feel everything, the pain, the joy, the fear, and most importantly, the hope. Because that's what family really is, not a bloodline, but a lifeline. And Logan and I, we were going to be just fine. 6 months after signing those adoption papers, I discovered that building a new life requires more than just determination. It takes a village. Thankfully, my village showed up in force. Earth to Valerie. Tatum waved her hand in front of my face, snapping me out of my daze. We were sitting in my kitchen while Logan practiced with his debate team at school. You're doing that thing again where you overthink everything. Sorry, I said, pushing away the stack of bills I'd been staring at. It's just, everything's so much more expensive than I planned. Private school tuition, debate team fees, his growth spurt that means new clothes every other month. And that's why you have me, she declared, pulling out her laptop. Time to put that marketing degree of yours to better use. Bennett's been asking about you, you know. Bennett, the community center director? The very same. He needs someone to overhaul their outreach program. Full-time position, better pay than your current gig, and more flexible hours. I perked up. Really? Interviews on Thursday. Already set it up. Tatum, I exclaimed. You can't just watch me, she grinned. Now go change. Logan's debate showcase is in an hour. The school auditorium was packed when we arrived. I spotted Logan pacing backstage through the curtain gap, adjusting his tie nervously. A familiar figure was talking to him. Bennett in his characteristic blazer and kind smile. Mom, Logan waved us over. Mr. Spencer's been helping me practice my rebuttals. Bennett turned, his eyes crinkling. Valerie, perfect timing. This young man of yours is quite the orator. Thanks for helping him, I said. Though I hear you might have ulterior motives involving a job interview. He laughed. Guilty as charged, but right now let's focus on this rising star. Logan beamed at the praise, then froze as he looked past us. I turned to see what caught his attention and felt my stomach drop. My brother Miles was sliding into a seat near the back of the auditorium. It's okay. Logan squeezed my hand. I want him to see this. The debate topic was traditional family values in modern society. The irony wasn't lost on me. Logan was arguing against the proposition that only conventional family structures could provide stable homes. When it was his turn to speak, he stood tall, his voice clear and confident. Family isn't defined by blood or tradition. It's defined by love, choice, and commitment. Every day, my mom chooses to be my mom. Every day, I choose to be her son. That choice, that conscious decision to love and support each other, makes our bond stronger than any accident of birth. I felt tears welling up as he continued, systematically dismantling every argument about conventional families being superior. In the back, I could see Miles leaning forward, completely engaged. Logan's team won the debate. As people filed out, Miles approached us hesitantly. That was incredible, Logan, he said. You've got quite a gift. Thanks, Uncle Miles, Logan replied, testing the waters with the title. I saw my brother's eyes widen slightly. I should go, Miles stammered. Mom and Dad, they don't know I'm here. Of course they don't, I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Val, I'm trying, he pleaded. They're struggling. But Logan's success, your success, it's making them think. They know where to find us, I replied firmly. Come on, Logan. Bennett's treating us to Celebration ice cream. That evening, as Logan worked on homework at the kitchen table, I called Tatum. I'll take that interview, I said. It's time to build something bigger than just surviving. That's my girl, she replied. Oh, and check your email. Bennett sent over some ideas about starting a foundation. Something about promoting inclusive family structures and supporting adoptive parents. I looked at Logan, who was now arguing with his calculator about algebra. This bright, passionate boy who'd changed my life completely. Maybe it was time to help other families like ours. Tell Bennett I'm in, I said. All in. After hanging up, I joined Logan at the table. Need help with that math? Please, he groaned. Numbers are evil. Well, lucky for you, I'm pretty good at slaying evil numbers. He laughed, then grew serious. Mom, thanks for choosing me, even though it cost you your family. I pulled him into a hug. You are my family. The rest? They're just people who share my DNA. And someday, they'll realize what they missed out on. Their loss, he mumbled into my shoulder. Their loss, I agreed, reaching for his textbook. Now, let's conquer these evil numbers together. The whispers started at the country club, of all places. Bennett had insisted I join after taking the community center position, saying networking was crucial for our new foundation's success. I was reviewing donor proposals at a corner table when I overheard them. That's her, Ainsley's daughter, the one who adopted that boy. Such a shame. The Roberts family had such a pristine lineage. I heard the boy's background is questionable. My coffee cup clattered against its saucer. Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the gossip. Ladies, if you're so interested in my sister's life, why not ask her directly? Miles stood there, looking uncomfortable but determined. The whispering women scattered like startled birds. You didn't have to do that, I said as he sat down. Yes, I did. He fidgeted with his watch. Mom's been spreading stories. Of course she has. I closed my laptop. Why are you here, Miles? I saw the Foundation's website. What you're doing. It's incredible, Val. The mentorship program for adoptive families, the scholarship fund, and I want to help. He pulled out his checkbook. Privately, for now, but I can't stay silent anymore. I stared at the check he slid across the table. The amount made my eyes widen. Miles, it's not enough to make up for everything, but it's a start. He stood up. Logan's debate videos are all over the school's website, by the way. Dad watches them when Mom's not around. My phone buzzed as Miles left. A text from Tatum. Emergency at the center. Get here now. I arrived to find Logan sitting in Bennett's office, sporting a split lip. A larger boy sat outside with an ice pack on his eye. He said I wasn't really your son, Logan explained, his voice tight. That I was just some charity case you picked up to spite your family. So you hit him? I asked, sitting beside him. No, I told him he was entitled to his ignorant opinion. Logan managed a small smile. He hit me first. I just hit back better. Bennett cleared his throat. Given the circumstances and Logan's stellar record, we're looking at after-school detention for a week. The other boys' parents are being difficult. Let me guess. They're friends with my mother? Bennett nodded. But there's something else you should see. He turned his computer monitor toward us. On the screen was a local news website featuring Logan's debate video about family structures. The view count was in the thousands, with hundreds of supportive comments. Your story is resonating, Bennett said. People are listening. That evening, as I applied antiseptic to Logan's lip, my phone rang. Unknown number. Valerie? A hesitant voice. It's Dad. My hand froze. Logan squeezed my arm supportively. What do you want? I managed to ask. I saw what happened at the club today, and Logan's video, He paused. I miss you, Val. Really? Because last I checked, I wasn't your daughter anymore. That was your mother talking. I should have. Yes, you should have, but you didn't. I took a deep breath. If you want to be part of our lives, you'll need to do better than a secret phone call. After hanging up, I found Logan in the kitchen making hot chocolate, our comfort drink of choice. They're starting to crack, he said, handing me a mug topped with mini marshmallows. Maybe. I sipped the chocolate, but I'm not holding my breath. Good. He grinned, then winced at his split lip. Because we've got bigger things to focus on, like the Foundation's launch next month. My phone buzzed again. Tatum sending the latest registration numbers for our first adoption support workshop. They were double what we'd expected. You know what's funny? Logan said, scrolling through comments on his debate video. All those people who judged us, they just made our message spread faster. I looked at my son, my brilliant, resilient son, and felt a surge of pride. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's rising above, he finished. That's what you always say. When did you get so wise? Must be those superior genes you chose for me, he joked, ducking as I threw a marshmallow at his head. Later, I found a new email from Miles with a subject line that made my heart skip. Mom's planning to attend the Foundation launch. I showed it to Tatum during our morning meeting. Good, she said firmly. Let her come. Let her see exactly what she walked away from. I thought about my mother's face when I signed those adoption papers, about the whispers at the club, about Logan's split lip. Then I thought about our growing community, about Miles's support, about my father's hesitant call. You're right, I replied. It's time they all saw what real family looks like. Mom, they're trying to block the Foundation's permit. Logan burst into my home office waving his tablet. Look at this email thread Mr. Spencer forwarded. I scanned the message chain and felt my blood boil. Several prominent community members, all close friends of my mother's, had filed complaints about our planned community center expansion. They're saying we're promoting unstable family structures. Logan read, his voice trembling with anger. That's such language, I warned automatically, though I was thinking worse. My phone rang. Bennett. I assume you've seen the emails? Just now. How bad is it? They've got influence with the zoning board. He sighed. But we've got something better. Actual data. Your mother's friends might not like it, but our programs are showing real results. The success stories, I sat up straighter. The families we've already helped. Exactly. I'm calling an emergency meeting. 1 hour? I grabbed my keys. We'll be there. The community center's conference room was packed. Tatum had rallied our supporter network, and faces both familiar and new filled every seat. Among them, I spotted Miles slipping in through the back door. They want to shut us down before we've properly begun, Bennett addressed the room, but we're not going to let that happen. Valerie? I stood trying to channel Logan's debate confidence. In just 3 months, we've helped 15 families navigate the adoption process. We've provided counseling for 32 children. Our education programs have reached over 200 people. Numbers are great, someone called out, but the opposition is claiming we're destroying traditional values. Traditional values? A woman stood up. Sarah, one of our success stories. My husband and I tried for years to have children. This foundation helped us adopt twins. Are you saying our family is worth less because we chose each other? More voices joined in, sharing stories of families built through choice rather than blood. Logan, who'd been typing furiously on his laptop, suddenly raised his hand. I've been tracking our social media impact, he announced. Every negative comment about us generates an average of 12 supportive responses. People are defending us without us even asking. That's because truth resonates, Tatum added. And speaking of truth, I've got something interesting. She projected an old newspaper article onto the wall. Guess who was adopted? The current head of the zoning board. The room buzzed with this new information. Bennett smiled. I believe it's time we requested a public hearing. The next week found us at City Hall, facing down the zoning board. My mother's friends sat in a tight cluster, shooting disapproving glares our way. But they were outnumbered by our supporters, including families we'd helped and community leaders who'd seen our impact. This foundation, I addressed the board, isn't about destroying traditional families. It's about recognizing that love and commitment come in many forms. Every child deserves a chance at family, and every potential parent deserves support in providing that chance. Logan stepped up next, armed with statistics and testimonials. At 14, he commanded the room with a poise that made my heart swell. My mom chose me, he concluded, and every day we choose each other. That's not a threat to anyone's values. It's an expansion of them. The board chairman, who'd been quietly attentive throughout, finally spoke. As someone who was adopted myself, I understand both sides of this debate, but I cannot, in good conscience, block a program that helps create families. The permit was approved 7-2. Outside City Hall, supporters celebrated while my mother's friends hurried to their cars. Miles approached, grinning. Mom's furious, he said. She's been calling everyone she knows, but people are starting to question her stance. Dad's actually defending you to their friends. Really? I tried to keep my voice neutral. Really, and he hesitated. I've decided to go public with my support. No more hiding. Before I could respond, Logan called out, Mom, the local news wants an interview. The reporter was young and enthusiastic. Your foundation's story has gone viral, she explained. People are calling it a modern David versus Goliath, grassroots community support defeating entrenched prejudices. We're just trying to help families find each other, I said. Like you and Logan did? I looked at my son, who was already deep in conversation with Bennett about expanding our youth mentorship program. Yes, I smiled. Exactly like that. Later, as we celebrated with pizza at home, Logan asked, Do you think Grandma will ever change her mind? I don't know, I answered honestly, but that's not why we're doing this. No, he agreed, reaching for another slice. We're doing it because it's right, and because some people need help finding their real family. Speaking of family, I nodded toward the window where Tatum was pulling up with Bennett and several others. Ours seems to keep growing. Logan grinned. Good thing we ordered extra pizza. They want me to do what? Logan stared at the email on my screen, his eyes wide with disbelief. Give the keynote speech at the National Adoption Advocacy Conference, I repeated. They saw your debate videos and your interviews about the foundation. They think you'd be perfect. But that's huge, he stammered. There'll be hundreds of people there. Thousands, actually. Bennett chimed in from the doorway. including several state legislators and family court judges. Logan sank into a chair. No pressure or anything. You don't have to do it, I assured him. But it could help a lot of people, he finished. I'll do it. Just help me write it. The next few weeks became a whirlwind of preparation. Logan practiced his speech everywhere, at breakfast, in the car, even while shooting hoops in the driveway. Tatum filmed him and offered feedback, while Bennett connected him with other young speakers for tips. Then came the email that changed everything. Mom? Logan called from the living room. Uncle Miles says Grandma and Grandpa are planning to attend the conference. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. What? He says Grandpa convinced her. They're both coming. He looked up at me. Are you okay? Before I could answer, Tatum burst in. Have you seen the registration list? Half the country club crowd signed up, including your mother's entire social circle. They're coming to support us? Logan asked hopefully. More likely to critique us, I muttered, or to show everyone how wrong we are. Then let's show them how right we are, he said firmly. I'm rewriting parts of my speech. The day of the conference arrived with nervous energy and barely controlled chaos. The hotel ballroom was packed, and I could see my parents sitting near the middle, my mother rigid in her designer suit, my father looking uncomfortable but present. Deep breaths. Tatum squeezed my hand. You've got this. He's got this. Bennett took the stage first, introducing our foundation's work and its impact over the past year. The statistics were impressive. Dozens of families united, hundreds of support group sessions conducted, thousands reached through our programs. Then it was Logan's turn. He approached the podium, looking both younger and older than his 14 years in his new suit. His hands shook slightly as he adjusted the microphone, but his voice was clear and strong. 2 years ago, I was a kid in the system who'd given up on finding a family, he began. Today, I'm standing here as a son, a student, and an advocate. Not because of blood or biology, but because one person chose to see me as more than my circumstances. I watched my mother's face as Logan continued, noting how her expression shifted from dismissive to attentive. People told my mom she was making a mistake, Logan said. That real family only comes from blood. That she was betraying her legacy. He paused, looking directly at his grandparents. But here's what they didn't understand. Legacy isn't about maintaining bloodlines. It's about passing on values, love, and the courage to stand up for what's right. The room was silent, hanging on every word. My mom lost her birth family when she chose me. But you know what? We built a new family. One that grows bigger every day, filled with people who support us, challenge us, and love us for exactly who we are. I saw my father reach for my mother's hand. So to anyone who thinks family can only look one way, I invite you to open your eyes. Look around this room. See the single parents, the adoptive families, the foster caregivers, the chosen families. We're all real, we're all valid, and we're all changing the world, one choice at a time. The standing ovation was immediate and thunderous. Through my tears, I saw my mother dab at her eyes with a handkerchief. Backstage after the speech, Logan was surrounded by well-wishers when a familiar voice cut through the crowd. Excuse me, my father said. I'd like to speak to my grandson. The crowd parted. My mother stood slightly behind him, her makeup slightly smeared. My father's voice cracked. We were wrong, Val. So wrong. Yes, you were. I agreed, but without bitterness. The things I said about you not being family. My mother spoke up, her voice uncharacteristically small. I was wrong too. Can we try again? Logan looked at me, silently asking permission. I nodded slightly. Well, he said, I've never had grandparents before, but I hear it's never too late to start. As my parents hugged Logan for the first time, I felt Tatum's arm around my shoulders. Look at that, she whispered. Sometimes the best revenge really is living well. It's not about revenge anymore, I replied, watching my son show my parents pictures on his phone. It's about healing. The conference's closing ceremony was meant to be a simple awards presentation. Instead, it turned into something none of us expected. Mom, they added another speaker, Logan whispered, showing me the updated program. Look who it is. My heart skipped when I saw my mother's name listed as the surprise guest speaker. Tatum grabbed my arm. Did you know about this? I shook my head. Miles? Bennett? Did either of you? Not a clue, Bennett said, looking as surprised as I felt. But the press is eating it up. Conservative socialite addresses adoption conference. It's already trending. The ballroom was even more packed than during Logan's speech. I could see reporters lining the walls, cameras ready. My father sat in the front row, looking nervous but proud. "Ladies and gentlemen," the conference director announced, "we have an unexpected addition to our program. Please welcome Ainsley, who has requested a moment to speak." My mother approached the podium, her designer suit impeccable as always, but her usual confident stride was slightly hesitant. She adjusted the microphone, took a deep breath, and looked directly at me. "I've spent my life believing I knew exactly what family meant," she began. "I had rules, traditions, expectations, and when my daughter challenged those beliefs by adopting my grandson, Her voice cracked slightly. "I chose those rules over my own child." The room was dead silent. Logan squeezed my hand. "Yesterday, I watched that same grandson stand on this stage and speak about what family truly means. I watched him demonstrate more wisdom at 14 than I have shown in 60 years. She pulled out a folded paper from her jacket. "This morning, I called every member of my social circle who opposed my daughter's foundation. I resigned from committees that discriminated against non-traditional families. And I wrote this." My mother unfolded the paper with trembling hands. "To my daughter Valerie, I was wrong. To my grandson Logan, I'm sorry it took me so long to see you. To every family in this room, your love is valid. Your choices matter. And I stand here today not just to apologize, but to join your cause." Whispers erupted around the room. I saw several of my mother's friends shifting uncomfortably in their seats. "I'm pledging $1 million to the foundation," she announced, causing gasps throughout the audience. "And more importantly, I'm pledging my voice, because if someone like me can change, anyone can." She looked at me again, tears now flowing freely. "Valerie, Logan, I don't expect forgiveness. I haven't earned it, but I'm hoping you'll let me try." Before I could process what was happening, Logan was on his feet, walking toward the podium. He wrapped his arms around his grandmother, and the photographers went wild. "Better late than never, Grandma," I heard him say into the microphone, causing gentle laughter throughout the room. I felt a hand on my shoulder. My father. "Your mother spent all night writing that speech," he said softly. "She means every word." The next hour was a blur of interviews, photographs, and tearful conversations. My mother's former friends either left quickly or came to offer tentative support. Miles was beaming as he handled press inquiries, while Bennett and Tatum coordinated with the foundation's legal team about the pledge. "Did you see Mrs. Henderson's face?" Logan laughed later as we finally got a moment alone. "I thought she was going to faint when Grandma announced the donation." "I'm more interested in your face," I said, studying him. "Are you really okay with all this?" He considered for a moment. "You always taught me people can change if we give them the chance. Shouldn't we practice what we preach?" "When did you get so mature?" "Must be those excellent parenting skills you chose to develop." He grinned. A knock at the door interrupted us. My parents, looking unsure if they were welcome. "We were wondering," my mother said hesitantly, "if you both might like to have dinner. There's so much to talk about, so much to learn about each other." I looked at Logan, who nodded encouragingly. "Dinner would be nice," I said. "But Mom, this doesn't fix everything." "I know," she replied quietly, "but it's a start, isn't it?" As we walked to the restaurant, I watched Logan chatting animatedly with my father about his debate team, while my mother listened intently to every word. Tatum texted me a photo she'd taken of the moment Logan hugged my mother on stage, with the caption, "Sometimes the biggest victories come from unexpected places." She was right. This wasn't the revenge I'd once dreamed of. It was something better, a chance for healing, for growth, for redefining what family could be. And watching my son lead the way in forgiveness, I couldn't have been prouder of the family we'd chosen to be. The restaurant's private dining room felt too small for the weight of 2 years' worth of unspoken words. My mother kept rearranging her silverware while my father studied the menu as if it held the secrets of the universe. "So," Logan broke the silence, "do I have any cousins I should know about?" Miles, who'd joined us at the last minute, choked on his water. "Not yet, but actually," he glanced at my parents. "Sarah and I are starting the adoption process next month." My mother's fork clattered against her plate. "You're what?" We've been talking to Valerie's foundation, he said firmly. There's this little girl. She's 6. He pulled out his phone, showing a photo of a beaming child with curly hair. She's beautiful, my father said softly, then looked at my mother. Isn't she, Ainsley? I watched my mother's face cycle through emotions, shock, resistance, and finally something like acceptance. She has your smile, Miles. That's not how genetics work, Mom, he laughed. No, she replied thoughtfully. I suppose it isn't. She turned to Logan. Tell me about when you first met your mother. Logan launched into the story, how we'd connected over shared books during my volunteer hours at the group home, our weekly chess matches, the day I brought him his favorite mint chocolate chip ice cream after he aced a difficult test. She didn't try to buy my affection, he explained. She just showed up, consistently. Nobody had ever done that before. My mother dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. Well, I did the opposite. I just left. Yes, I said, my voice harder than intended. You did. Valerie, my father started, but I held up my hand. No, this needs to be said. I leaned forward. You didn't just reject me, you tried to destroy everything I built. Those complaints to the zoning board, the whispers at the club, the families you turned against us. I was wrong, my mother whispered. Wrong doesn't cover it, Mom. You wanted to punish me for choosing love over lineage. And now what? One speech and a donation makes it all better. Logan touched my arm. Mom. No, she's right. My mother straightened her spine. I was cruel, deliberately cruel. I let my pride and prejudice poison everything it touched. And I didn't just hurt you. I hurt Logan. I hurt our family. I hurt every person who needed the support your foundation provides. So what changed? I demanded. His speech, she gestured to Logan. But more than that, watching you these past 2 years, seeing the family you built, the lives you've touched, I realized I was the one living in a fantasy world, not you. My father reached for her hand. We both were. The country club is in chaos, Miles added with a slight smirk. Half the board members have children who want to adopt now. Mrs. Henderson's daughter actually applied to work at the foundation. The world is changing, my mother said. I can either change with it or become irrelevant, and I've wasted enough time being irrelevant to my own children's lives. A waiter appeared with our entrees, providing a moment to collect ourselves. As he served the food, I noticed my mother watching Logan help my father navigate the wine list with his recently diagnosed reading glasses. He's remarkable, she said quietly to me. You did that. You saw what I couldn't. That family isn't about maintaining what was, it's about building what could be. He did that, I corrected her. I just gave him the chance. Will you give me one? She asked. A chance? I looked at Logan, who was now teaching my father some debate team hand signals, both of them laughing. At Miles, showing the adoption paperwork to anyone who would look. At my mother's hopeful, humbled expression. On one condition, I said, you need to be all in. No more secret support or private acceptance. I need you to be as proud of this family in public as you were ashamed of us before. Done, she said immediately. I'll start by hosting the foundation's next fundraiser. Let all those whispers at the club turn into shouts of support. Grandma, Logan interrupted, can I bring my debate team? They'd love to meet the woman who went viral standing up for adoptive families. Viral? My mother blinked. Miles pulled up social media on his phone. Your speech has over 1 million views. You're trending as Grandma Evolution. For the first time in my memory, my mother laughed. Really laughed. Well, if I'm going to be famous, it might as well be for finally getting something right. Speaking of right, my father cleared his throat. We'd like to host Sunday dinners, weekly, for our whole family, chosen and born. I felt tears prick my eyes. I'd like that. Me too, Logan grinned. But fair warning, I'm bringing Tatum and Bennett, their family too. Of course they are, my mother said, and I could tell she meant it. The more, the merrier. The autumn breeze carried the sound of laughter from my parents' backyard, where Logan was teaching his newly adopted cousin Emma the finer points of debate stance. My mother stood at the grill, a sight I never thought I'd see, while my father arranged plates on the outdoor table. Still can't believe Mom learned to grill, Miles said, joining me on the patio with a stack of napkins. Still can't believe she traded in her country club membership for a Costco card, I replied. Best decision I ever made, my mother called out, flipping a burger with surprising skill. Though I must say, teaching that cooking class at the Foundation Center was quite the adventure. The kids loved it, Logan said, walking over with Emma perched on his shoulders. Especially when you burned the first batch of cookies. Well, we all have to start somewhere, she laughed, then turned serious. Speaking of starting somewhere, Valerie, have you seen today's paper? I shook my head. She nodded toward the kitchen counter, where the local newspaper lay open. The headline made my breath catch. State adopts revolutionary family support program based on local foundation model. They're implementing our programs statewide, Bennett announced, arriving with Tatum and a massive fruit salad. Every county will have support centers, mentorship programs, everything. Turn to page 3, my father urged. There, in full color, was a photo of our entire family, biological and chosen, at the Foundation's latest event. The caption read, "Local family proves blood isn't thicker than water. It's the water that grows the garden." That's not even the best part, Logan grinned, pulling out his phone. Show them, Grandma. My mother blushed, as she took out her own phone. My TikTok about challenging family prejudices hit 5 million views. The comments section is quite enlightening. Mom's a social media influencer now, Miles Stage whispered. She's got more followers than Logan. Only because she keeps posting those cooking with grandma videos, Logan protested. People love watching her learn to make mac and cheese. People love watching her learn, period, my father said proudly. Do you know how many older parents have reached out to her about reconnecting with their estranged children? Emma tugged at my sleeve. Aunt Val, can we show them the surprise now? I nodded, and she ran inside, returning with a large envelope. It's from the governor's office. Inside was an official invitation. The governor wanted our foundation to lead a state commission on modern, family support initiatives. But more importantly, they wanted Logan to chair the youth advisory board. They want me to what? Logan's eyes widened as he read. They want you to help shape policy, Bennett explained, to ensure other kids get the same chances you did. See? My mother said softly. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest choices. Like choosing to grill instead of going to the country club, Logan teased. Like choosing to be brave enough to love, she corrected, pulling him into a hug. You taught me that. Tatum raised her glass. To choices that change lives. To family, my father added. To both, I said, watching Emma climb back onto Logan's shoulders while my mother documented it for her social media followers. The afternoon flowed into evening, our expanded Sunday dinner tradition in full swing. Bennett and my father debated politics while Tatum and Miles planned the next foundation event. Emma practiced her debate poses, making Logan critique her form between bites of perfectly grilled burger. My mother pulled me aside as she served her somewhat lopsided but lovingly made chocolate cake. I keep waiting, she admitted quietly. For what? For you to tell me I haven't earned this yet. This happiness, this family, this second chance. I watched Logan teaching Emma how to cut her cake with the proper etiquette my mother had once drilled into us, but doing it with laughter instead of criticism. That's not how family works, Mom. At least not the kind of family we've chosen to be. She squeezed my hand. Thank you for showing me a better way. Thank you for being willing to learn. Grandma, Emma called. Logan says you're supposed to tell us the story about the time you tried to stop the foundation, but ended up becoming its biggest supporter instead. Again? My mother laughed. You've heard it a dozen times. But it's the best story, Logan insisted. It's about how love wins, how family grows, how people change. Well then, she sat down, pulling Emma into her lap while Logan leaned against her shoulder. Once upon a time, I thought I knew everything about what made a family real. I settled in to listen to my mother tell our story, not with shame or regret, but with pride and wisdom hard-won. Around us, our chosen family, expanded, strengthened, and more real than any bloodline could define, continued to grow, one Sunday dinner at a time.